here down it's closed. It's physically, it's allowing a couple things to happen. It's allowing for an expansion of the plaza and to connect that plaza into the whole complex. From a technical point of view, services and things like that, the low-grade services will continue to run through. But the physical nature of the lane will be serviced off of Richards and Robson.
For the moving bollards, it'll be removable, so you can still drive cars through if you need to. That's it.
Any other questions?
What's the distance from these residential units into that atrium?
32 feet at the tightest, somewhere around there. The worst case scenario, and then it widens out on an angle.
Yeah. Anyone else?
So it's just down on the lowest levels.
Greg?
Question concerning the uses and the components of the building that do project out. There are a number of them. Just to clarify the publicness or privateness of
Maybe
Maybe,
Greg could do his
later.
presentation
Yeah,
and kind of
have
speak
that.
to those.
do that. Okay.
I'll speak to
stuff.
that if you like,
Yeah.
whenever you want.
Good segue. Unless there's other,
It's a vote. That means I can go now?
Yes.
Okay,
Actually,
so
just
I'll-
one
oh, sorry, one more.
question for
Yeah.
the planner. The view quarter. Which view quarter is it? And is it like a static quarter?
Yes, it's not one of the dynamic ones, and there's actually quite a few of them actually go over the site. The most restrictive being, there's one on this side, I forget which, 9.21, limits it this over here. So
There's
it's
actually
this.
there's a diagonal, it actually comes right through here.
Yeah.
That lowers this guy. And the one from 12th and Canby, you know, the one from 12th, actually limits it to that
That
height right
height.
there.
Okay.
And then this part here, it's because we shaved off on an angle here, actually was the line that falls
Okay,
in the
that.
line.
That's the one that's within the
That's with
shadow.
the shadow.
That's
of it.
right.
So the top 4 floors are the portion that are within the view shadow. Everything else is within the view cone.
Okay.
So-
So, but that's a fixed static
it's a fixed
viewpoint
static
That's
view
right.
on Canby. It's not a one as you proceed along Canby.
That's right.
Okay.
One of those photo things. And there's a series of diagrams down at the end there that show the before and after difference between what's there and what would be there.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Okay, well, I'll jump into the question about the animation just so I don't forget to answer it just from the beginning. Part of the intention of this, not only because it's Telus, but also because we believe that this is a unique opportunity to do something special on Georgia Street, is to really amplify the urban experience through the use of public art. And we wanted to use technology because it was Telus for public art, and the idea was, as part of the precinct with the rest of the Playhouse and all the other arts precincts, was to the art gallery that's going to be down the street, is to actually define specific opportunities, and the ones that are in your report aren't going to be the final ones. It's just the idea in general that there are LED media walls that can be used by artists and residents. So think of them as giant screens that are built into the fabric of the building that can be used for public art, and we're proposing that Telus would have an artist in residence that would rotate every 6 months or something like that, that would do things that could even relate to the pitter-patter of moving along the street, or how many tweets occur on some website, something happens, or we're even talking to different nonprofits right now that could possibly be part of the CAC to be in the building, that could be project images from theater or cinema that could be part of it as well. And so the intention was to create a dynamic piece of public art rather than the static ones that we normally do. And so that was the intention. And whether or not they're exactly where they are right now, we actually have a company from Montreal called Moment Factory who does this for a living, looking at the building and coming up with some proposals on different ways in which they think would be really meaningful. And so the proposal, this is a rezoning again, I'll remind everyone. And so the specifics of where those go aren't really the issue for us, at least at this moment, because we're assuming that when we come forward, hopefully in the next phase, that we'll come back with more detail about what actually would be the most meaningful locations.
I think just to add to that, I think that what we were trying to accomplish with that is kind of started with what Jim and I did with Liam Gillick on the Fairmont Pacific Rim in terms of trying to use the building as the canvas. And rather than that piece, there's a text-based piece, and this one, the idea is to make this more of a video, movie, film type of presentation. But the idea is basically the same: is to turn the building into the canvas itself and integrate that into the building. So the project's big enough that it has a very large public art component, but the reality is that the public art component might pay for the content, but the infrastructure is the millions that go beyond the public art part. But I think that the fit with, just because of Telus, the fit is just such a natural one. And with the idea of the city trying to create this art precinct on Georgia Street, it just seemed like a natural kind of fit. So that's the idea.
Yeah. And then in terms of some of the larger, because this is a rezoning phase, I'll just address some of the larger issues on each building very quickly, because Anita and Dwayne did a great job. We're now proposing the office building to go LEED Platinum. Our original proposal was for gold, but we've made the commitment to upgrade that to LEED Platinum. We're exploring everything we're going to have triple glazed windows to radiant heating systems that we're all working with Cobalt on, and we're very excited about. In terms of the form of the building, there's really two interlocking elements. There's the large mast that fits within the allowable height and site that we have, and then there's this bar that slides through a cantilever, which is really the thing that unifies and tries to make the block read as one element. And so that's a steel structure that goes slicing through the building and then cantilevers over the street for this real sort of dynamic juncture or collision of these two volumes happening. And they really define the public plaza, which we think would be really important to have it covered because it rains so often in Vancouver. So and the idea is to have a restaurant which then spills out onto the public plaza. And in terms of the form of the residential building, the base of the residential building, we're actually working on the floor-to-floors now so that the ground floor is a little higher. Some of the proportions we're going to get a little better in terms of that. But the idea here is to try and develop a scale that relates to the Kingston Hotel in terms of the base. So it has sort of a Robson Street scale in terms of the initial base of the building. There's a series of elements there also which project out into the street, which we think could be very exciting. Things like the gymnasium that'll be on the top here with people cycling on over the sidewalk and things like that. And there's a pool that we'd like to project over the sidewalk as well if possible. We think those sort of interventions would add a real dynamism to Robson Street, and could be some things that you'd see coming up the street that could be really special. These things have been done in Toronto. I don't know if you know the Morphosis building in Toronto, I think in our proposal. But they're things that really engage the streetscape at a really immediate level, and we think these elements provide a dynamism which isn't always allowed or asking for special permission. In terms of the design of this building, the idea was to try and develop a sculptural form which breaks the scale down. We know it's a very large floor plate ranging in size from 8,500 to 9,500 square feet. It varies floor to floor. It changes quite a bit. And so we break the massing up not only in terms of 3 volumes. You have one sort of very modernist volume on the west side. You have a series of these more rectangular boxes which use the sunshades in a very sort of decorative manner to create this the screen effect on the east side. And then on the north side you can see sort of the slits which show the movement of the box and the cantilever of the one element sliding forward, which is an attempt to further break down the scale of it and provide some more dynamism. So part of this whole aesthetic in terms of the sculptural massing up is really to sort of express sort of this engagement in the public realm, which we think is really important. This one is going to be LEED Gold and will be part of a site-wide geo-exchange site utility, which will actually capture the heat that's generated from the Telus hub, which is over here. So right now we have every telephone line in all of British Columbia runs through this building. And the amount of cooling that goes into it every day to try and keep all of the mechanical from overheating is immense. So we're going to be taking that rejected heat and storing it in the ground and using that for hot water heating for the residential tower. And likewise, each of these buildings will be feeding into that site-wide utility. And there's actually potential, we think, for this to be a net producer of heat, which can then be sold actually to other people. So we're quite excited about that. And so there's a really short, is that short enough? Okay, thank you.
All right, any questions?
I'm just going to add one thing, is that as part of this project with Powell, one of the commitments that we made with Darren was that he really wanted to see the other elements of the project all brought together. So it includes a reskinning on the existing Telus building. It includes canopies all the way down Richards, down Seymour. It includes taking out, right now, if you're on Seymour, it's just a blank, it's dead. It's toast, like you would not want to walk down that street. So we're taking White Spot, for example, the existing White Spot from here, we're going to take them out here and plug them in mid-block on Seymour. Then we got another retailer that we're plugging in here. The atrium that's there right now, the existing atrium, we're going to bring that alive. We're going to bring elevators and staircases up into the atrium, and we're going to turn that atrium into a space that's actually utilized. Right now, nobody even knows that atrium. You go inside it, and you go, wow, it's amazing, but nobody even knows it's there. And so we're going to introduce that actually over the next couple of months with a pop-up restaurant inside the atrium, which is kind of a cool idea. And then after the pop-up restaurant, that's where the presentation center will be. And then after that's all done, then it'll turn into a retail space. And the same thing with the laneway here. One of the other commitments that we had with Darren was that we're going to actually try to do something really cool with the laneway. So there's two different concepts, but one of them is to actually get a paver that will allow grass to grow through it and have a row of grass down the middle. One is to have actually a light feature that runs down. We're going to take that same, if you're in Milan with the cables, with the lights hanging down. So we're going to bring this lane to try to do something cool with it. And we've got retailers in the laneway. So actually right out of the existing Telus data center, we're going to carve retailers out of that space. And the idea is to find some tenants like that you would find in Blood Alley.
With salt.
With salt or something. Try to create some really interesting space. It's obviously the economics of that are stupid, but in terms of trying to create an interesting full city development, Telus was really focused on the idea that we're not looking at two buildings, we're looking at a comprehensive whole city block, and I think that needs to really be emphasized. And I actually think that the Kingston Hotel here I think is interesting from that perspective. Like, we keep getting asked, well, why didn't we just try to buy it or something? And I actually think it's interesting having it there because I think it's an interesting foil between the two buildings and it breaks down the mass. And I actually don't think we would have accomplished anything other than maybe making construction a bit easier. I don't think it
Yeah, sure.
So what I'm hearing is that this is basically a pedestrian precinct for Lane.
Well, it's actually
No, I
it
understand
isn't.
they're
It's
bullets,
both.
but-
It is very much both because you've got the